Hey there. Have you ever wondered how to talk to your partner about money when you don't know how to talk to your partner about money? Well, that's what a reader asked us recently, and so we're going to answer that question here. And so John has written that question on his hand.
On
why,
my iPad.
why don't you share with us the question that came from the reader?
And then if you hang out with us long enough, we're going to share 2 tips on how
That's
to
right,
have
that's
that
right.
conversation with your partner about money. And we'll link to 2 tools that will help ease that conversation.
Exactly.
So we received an email from Dale. Dale says, would you mind talking on your podcast about how if one partner in your relationship is severely in debt while the other is financially sound, how do you broach that conversation? I have no debt and I have a good credit score. My partner has $16,000 in debt and he has a poor credit score. I tried talking to him about money and helping him out, but have had no luck. We live together and aren't married. Do you have any advice? Well, of course, we have lots of advice.
Right, of
That's
course.
what we're here for.
Right, exactly. We have advice. Well, and actually, the reality is that John and I recognize that this is a common topic for most of us because if you're like us, when you got into your relationship, money was not one of the first things you talked about. We rarely talk about money at the beginning of our relationships.
No, we talked about the size of a lot of things, but not our bank accounts.
Right, exactly. Or the amount of debt we have.
No.
It's very uncommon for people to be talking about money right away. So it's hard to start this discussion. It's hard to start having that discussion when it's not something that we're used to talking about. And so oftentimes it comes up at a later point in time when maybe it's starting to rear its ugly head. Your financial situation is starting to rear its ugly head.
Yes, it seems like it usually happens when either both partners are going in different directions, or if there's some friction in the relationship and you're not making the progress that you want to make, or you might be even going backwards. And in our situation, we realized that we weren't living according to our values. We weren't achieving the things we wanted to achieve in life. We were being distracted by glittery things and not by what our long-term goals were.
Right. And the other thing is, especially for the queer community, in our community, we have this need or perception that we are always fabulous. Everything is awesome. And so
everything is awesome.
Right. And so it's harder for us oftentimes to start talking about that because we want people to think, especially our partner, especially if we've been in this relationship for a shorter period of time, we want them to think that we're awesome. So it's hard to do that. And when we start to have those conversations, it's easy for people to hide behind maybe their situation or maybe not to be completely honest. And as we mentioned before, John and I believe that if you are wanting to be a successful couple, one of the keys to being a successful couple is to be going in the right direction or a similar direction financially together. It's important for you to do this together so that you can make progress together.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily that you have to have the same financial goals, but you have to be able to at least support each other in achieving your financial goals, your individual financial goals, and not be distracting. And it sounds like Dale and his partner seem to be struggling with. Dale wants to make some progress,
right.
Do some bigger and better things in his life, but his partner's debt is sort of holding them back, and he's struggling with how to start that conversation so that they can both get on the same page. You mentioned the idea of we have this perception that we all live this fabulous life, and I think for the top 1%, maybe 5% of the LGBT community, maybe they do have a fabulous life, but because of media and because of popular culture, I think a lot of us sort of carry these beliefs that if we don't have a fabulous life as portrayed on TV, then we're failures.
Right.
And that's why I think a lot of those of us in the LGBT community, especially gay men, sort of mask those sort of inferiority complexes or are carrying some baggage from when they were younger, and that's manifesting itself in it's either bad money management or they've got too much debt, as was the case on our part. So I think what's important to remember as you broach this conversation, Dale, with your partner, is to remember that the $16,000 in credit card debt is just the symptom. It's actually not the disease. And having a conversation with your partner about money may bring up a lot of uncomfortable emotions or baggage with your partner. So keep that in mind as you have this discussion. But we do have 2 tools that should make starting this discussion a little bit easier.
Right. And because we are all inclined to want to talk about things that are great or things that we really desire, we think this is the perfect place to start. We think that it's great to start your conversation with what are your hopes and dreams? Where do you really want to see yourself in a year, in 5 years, in 20 years? Do you want to take a great vacation together to Spain? Do you want to have children? Are you looking at wanting to get a house in that perfect neighborhood? What are those kinds of things that you want to be able to do together that have a financial responsibility or need attached to them? Because it's easy. I mean, John and I do this all the time. It's easy to sit down and start daydreaming about the things that we love and the things that we want. And that can be the great starting point, that launching point to having those conversations about where to go financially.
Right. So one of the first exercises that David and I did when we decided that we needed to pay off our $51,000 in credit card debt was to have a discussion about what is it we most wanted in life. What were our hopes and dreams? And we had this discussion over the course of several weeks. It wasn't an immediate, it wasn't a coffee table discussion. We didn't have it over just a glass of wine. It took some time because we really had to do some soul searching. We had to sort of peel back the onion and figure out what it is we really wanted. And ultimately, we narrowed it down to a handful of goals. Luckily for us, we had the same goals. Like we said, some couples might not have the same goals, but at least you can support each other in your same goals. But so the first exercise we would have for you, and that we link to on the link above, and we'll include in our show notes, is our hopes and dreams, the Debt Free Guys Hopes and Dreams worksheet. This will hopefully start the discussion to have to decide what it is you both want individually and as a couple that you can maybe start working on together. And the links that we'll include will give further instructions on how to have that conversation and to complete that exercise. We'll also then follow up that Hopes and Dreams worksheet with the financial blockers exercise. So after you figure out what your goals are, then follow it up with what's preventing us from achieving those goals. What's preventing us from having the life that we want to have? And our advice to Dale is, early on in that discussion, as you're doing that particular exercise, jot down that $16,000 worth of credit card debt and the bad credit score of your partners as something that's sort of holding you back from achieving your long-term goals.
Exactly. So both of you need to be honest in this discussion, honest about what you really want, but then honest with yourself and with your partner about what's holding you back. As John mentioned, you do need to express to Dale that you think that Dale, you need to express to your partner, one of the things that you think is holding you back is his debt. But at the same time, it would be a very good idea for you to express some of the things that you know are holding you back from being able to achieve the things that you want to do. And when you express that kind of honesty, that will allow you then to hopefully get the same kind of honesty back from him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you want this to be sort of a two-way, beneficial for both of you and not sort of pointing fingers.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great point.
Right.
So hopefully you found this helpful. We love receiving questions from our audience. We do get a lot of questions through our website at debtfreeguys.com and through our social media, direct messages through our social media. So if you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach us through any of those platforms, and we'll use that to create content down the road, because our goal is to help you with your needs and not just stand here and talk about what it is that we're always interested in talking about. So give us your feedback, let us know, and we will incorporate that in a future Queer Money episode, a future Facebook Live, or maybe we'll see it on Huffington Post or Yahoo Finance someday. So
sounds good.
Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again.
Ciao.